Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football, and this is our NFL preview. We're going to look at the games for Week 12 of the National Football League. If you just are getting around to saying, gosh, Monday night was last night, why are they doing this right now? Because there's some big games that are going to be taking place this coming weekend, and this is water cooler filter time. You got to be near the water cooler, and you will be up to speed with all the things that are happening in the league, some of the biggest games that are taking place this weekend. We're going to go over 4 of them, along with Joey Clinkscales, former player, former scout, former director of scouting, personnel director, general manager. He's done it all, and he's going to break down these games and the players within it like nobody else. And Brian LeBel is our NCAA and NFL analyst, and they join us here on the NFL Preview Show. Gentlemen, we're past the halfway point, and it is about time where we can begin introducing playoffs and wild cards and who's going to win the division and home field advantage. All of those things will be creeping in. There are too many possibilities from a mathematical standpoint for any of us to go over them and go, this is absolutely what's going to take place. Even Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking couldn't figure it out. But Joey, the things that are taking place right now and a couple of the games that are going to be taking place that we're going to talk about have playoff implications. Give me an indication right now from a player standpoint, from a front office standpoint, what the temperature is like, knowing that there's only a couple of weeks left and you better win or else your chances of making it in the playoffs don't exist anymore.
Well, from a player standpoint, you can't really lose the playoffs, lose your way or out of the playoffs in the first 3 or 4 weeks, but you can certainly help your chances because at the end of the season, the middle of the end of the season, a la the Ravens are still alive and they have a chance. Despite going on a 3 or 4 game losing streak without Lamar, they're still in the thick of it and have a chance to get in. Kansas City in a similar fashion. They didn't start off great, had guys out, they had injuries, and now they're back in the hunt. They're playing up and down right now, but they have some really key games coming up where they can kind of – right now, if the playoffs start today, Kansas City would be out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, so This is the time of the year where the players know, the coaching staff know, the front office know that this is where those guys really make their money. This is the time where they can go out and make a name for themselves and put themselves in position, if not win a division, to be a wild card division with some kind of momentum going in. Yeah,
and I'm imagining, Brian, that the amount of rest that you get from a coaching perspective to give to your players – there's certain things that you have to get better at. Let's say stopping the run, especially if it's on the outside, that you must focus on. And I'm just giving an example. But you don't want to spend too much time to have the guys where their legs are tired or where they're fatigued to the point where they can't play at full speed. You kind of tone it down. Bill Walsh was the first guy that I was aware of that would put shells on guys, meaning you wore this little pad over you. It was like shoulder pads, but you would go 3/4, maybe full speed, but not full speed contact. You'd be running and doing everything that you can, but you're just doing it for conditioning right now. You want to save everybody up. What is that aspect of the game like for you?
It's interesting because I think it varies based on a team, based on their health, right? Because that's a huge part of this year as well. Is everybody's trying to stay healthy. I want to have as many of my day one guys as I can have on the field. There's a 100% injury rate in football. Everyone's going to be injured. Everyone's going to be banged up. So you get that war of attrition. But for a lot of it, we're at the point in the season where everybody kind of knows what they are. We've kind of figured out what everything is. A lot of the game is going to be mental. It's going to be saying, hey, we want to be more prepared than the other guys. You got months of film on everybody now. So the defenses, as you can kind of see by the scores, with some exceptions from some bad teams, but the scoring goes down a little bit. The weather gets a little colder. So it makes sense. It's ideal. Obviously, everyone's going to do things differently. The good teams are probably going to practice a little bit more 3/4 than the bad teams are. And obviously the healthier teams are going to practice a little bit harder maybe than the banged up teams. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And, that's just what happens when you get to this time of the year.
So if I can interject right quick. And so from a player association and a league perspective, it was collectively bargained that you can only practice full pads 18 it's either 17 or 18 full padded practices a year. So I'm sure that the general public doesn't know that. So every week you're not going to practice in full pads. So that means your tempo outside of just running will be different because everybody's not going to be in full packs. They'll either be in shells or they'll be in the little dummy pads. But from a physical contact standpoint, once the new collective bargaining agreement happened, and we were the league was worried about CTE and because of the so much contact going on, the number of padded practices went from whatever the coaches wanted to now is only 18 total full padded practices a year. So that's how they try to keep guys from getting injured in practice so much from a physicality standpoint.
Joey, just to clarify, that's after 2-a-days, and that's when the regular season starts. So basically they're budgeting for one full practice a week in full pads. Is that about
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
And if you don't want to practice in full pads, and some teams don't, you don't have to, but you have 18 bargained in to the agreement, and you could have one during a bye week, which would be that 18th game, even though you're only playing 17, correct?
That's correct. And you have NFL spotters that come by the practice at times as well. So
sure.
They're keeping up with those things.
Joey, do me a favor. From your perspective, I know it was a difference maker for me. There are some coaches that if you make a mistake on the field during practice, they will stop what you're doing. They will go back to the line of scrimmage. You will correct the mistake immediately, even if it's just a walkthrough. Don't make the mistake. Correct the mistake. 2 + 2 is not 5. You got to fix it. 2 + 2 is 4. Now we can proceed. If a guy makes a wrong route decision or if he drops a ball, there are times where I've been around teams that absolutely stopped what they were doing, and then once it was corrected, they moved on.
Yes.
Are those the types of things that you see at the level that you've been at, that you can just kind of sit back and smile and go, we're doing it the right way here?
Yeah, I think the really good coaches demand, I don't want to say perfection, but as close to perfection as possible. So if there are consistent mistakes, a lot of times they'll start the period completely over.
Yeah.
Okay, you may have a drop ball here and there, but if the practice is, if that 12-minute period is going bad and we're 4 minutes into it, he'll stop it. We'll start the whole period over. We'll start rerun that script.
Yeah. It reminds me, Mike Ruther, a friend of mine who passed away about 3 years ago, one of those linemen that could play any position. He could play center, guard, tackles, 6'5", 300. And he was a free agent, signed with the Vikings, and Dennis Green was the head coach there. Mm-hmm. And he remembers going out one day in practice, and everybody dropped the ball. Everybody made a mistake. Everybody did something wrong. And they weren't in team yet, but they were just about ready to go to it. And then he got so upset. He goes, "That's it. I can't take it anymore. Get your butts back in the locker room. Take your tape off. Retape yourself and get your butt back out here. We're going to start practice all over." And they did. And they zipped right through it. But the mental and physical aspect of, we didn't practice very well, we're not going to waste the day, didn't get by Dennis Green. And in a way, it sent a message to the team, and they never had anything like that again. They went out, they did their work, and they were a playoff team. So sometimes that works like that, and other times you may lose a team because of it. So it's interesting how that happens. All right, guys, let's talk about the games. We're going to start with the Colts going to Kansas City. Indianapolis is 8-2, and they're coming off a bye. We'll start with you, Brian. Kansas City at home has been unbelievable over the past, 4, 5, 6 years. But GAHE Stadium is not the same right now. And the Colts, in my opinion, have a noose around the neck to where if they win this game and they go 10-2, I'm sorry, they'll go 9-2. They're 8-2 right now. And Kansas City goes to 5-6. Is this an elimination game pretty much for Kansas City?
I mean, the way the rest of the AFC is shaping up right now, it's kind of getting there. It's interesting. When was the last time we were, week 11, week 12, and the Chiefs were teetering as like a below 500 football team? It's uncharted territory for them. They still got Andy Reid. They still have Kelsey. They still have Mahomes. I still think they have a tremendous home field advantage, but they're losing a lot of the close games, which is something that they have been on the other end of for the better part of the last decade. So the Colts are coming off a bye. They have an absolute juggernaut at running back with Jonathan Taylor. I think the game plan has to be to slow him down. And, as crazy as it sounds, I think Daniel Jones could beat them, but try to make him beat you in this one. But not a lot of good things happening for the Chiefs. we've kind of given them a pass, especially on this show for the last, month or two. Say, hey, eventually they're going to figure it out. They're going to get it right, but they've kind of run out of wiggle room to do that. It kind of has to happen now. It is kind of a must-win game. And then if you're the Colts, absolutely, you have a chance to put a stranglehold, not just on your own division, but it's a potential tiebreaker that you would own against the Chiefs. And, going forward, it really bodes well for their playoff implications. Because right now, if they go to 9-2, they're not just thinking playoffs, they're thinking deep into the playoffs and maybe, a Super Bowl run.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel Jones, 2,659 yards. He has 15 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, already 1,139 yards. He has 15 touchdowns as well. Joey, they're third in the league in passing. I didn't realize this. They're third in the league in rushing at 145 yards a game. They're first in the league in scoring with 32.1. And their defense, they're only giving up 20.6. They're in the top 10. That's a great combination to have, isn't it?
Yeah, they're playing great right now. And, I mentioned earlier in the season about their schedule, and I don't think it's been a powerhouse schedule. I think the second half of their schedule will be a lot tougher than the first half was. So I think they'll be able to we'll get a better feel for the Colts. But you can only play the games that are in front of you, and they have done an excellent job of controlling the ball. Again, the thing that's impressive about the Colts is they are winning the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. Jonathan Taylor is, in my opinion, through week 11, the league MVP. At first it was, I thought it was Matthew Stafford, but right now Jonathan Taylor jumped him by not playing this past week. So so that was good. But, the Chiefs have a lot to play for. This will keep them above 500 with the win at home. It will the tiebreaker situation that Brian mentioned, and they need to have that momentum going in. I mean, everybody's been waiting on Kansas City to be the Kansas City of old. I think that aura of invincibility that they've once had is not there right now. So they have a lot to play for. I mean, they're a wounded cat in the corner, so they're going to be dangerous. So it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out.
Well, just for the fans that are looking at the division itself, Denver is 9-2 in the AFC West. The Los Angeles Chargers are 7-4, so a full 2 games behind. And then another 2 games behind is Kansas City at 5-5. The Raiders are 2-8, and technically they're basically out right now. But Kansas City has a 2-game window here with 6 remaining that it's got to turn around right now. Any last comments from either of you before we move on to the next game?
No, I just think Kansas City they have very little wiggle room left, so they have to start running off some wins back to back.
Well, you mentioned Jonathan Taylor, Joey, and everyone should know by now how good he is. But also, if he is a front runner for the league MVP, I'm giving a vote to every one of their 5 offensive linemen as well as they've done. You've talked about this from the beginning of the year, how important it is to have a good set of O and defensive linemen, and absolutely the Colts, their group has been healthy. They've been motivated, and they are earth movers right now, and they've done an excellent job, wouldn't you say? I mean, they're protecting their quarterback, and they're plowing people out of the way. So Jonathan has 250-yard games, for example, that he had a couple weeks ago against the Falcons.
When you can really run the ball like the Colts are able to run the ball, it makes life a lot easier for Daniel Jones, because the predictability of when you have to throw the ball goes down, because Jonathan Taylor can go for 245 yards in a game and break off long runs. So it makes life for Daniel Jones so much better. He is so glad he's not in New York right now. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, what a difference a city makes in a trade or a free agency. Before we go to the next one, Brian, real quick from you. Does Patrick Mahomes still have to carry the weight of the entire team, or is the defense going to show up and do their part to make sure that maybe 20, 25 points would be enough for them to be able to get a big win here that they absolutely need to have against the Colts?
Well, funny enough that you mentioned that. I think on Sunday he was doing a little bit too much. He made a couple mistakes, and I think he was in a position where he felt like maybe he had to be that guy. He ended up making a couple, key passes. One was picked off. One was almost picked off. It seemed like he was trying to force the football a little bit and not trusting the defense, who played very well against the Broncos. Denver is kind of a streaky offense, but when they're clicking, they're very, very good. They have we saw it with the Giants. They're capable of scoring 25, 30 points in a quarter if they need to pull out a win. But I think they kind of need to calm down, relax. I think their offensive line is what they thought they'd have week one is kind of coming back together. They're trying to replicate what the Colts have up front. They need to run the ball a little bit better and kind of play a little bit more off of play action, kind of like what Joey said, like what the Colts are doing right now. Maybe if they could steal a little bit of what has been crucial to the Colts' success and try to negate, because the Colts have a phenomenal defense too. They got a great front, so they're going to have to try to negate that on Sunday. And don't do too much. We know what he's capable of. We know what he can do, but they've been in a lot of these games. They just got to tweak one or two things, and very easily this team could have 7 or 8 wins. And I think talent-wise, they're on par with Indianapolis, and they could very easily win this game on Sunday.
Well, let's look real quick at Patrick Mahomes. 64% of his passes are completed, 2,625 yards. He's averaging 7.3 yards per attempt. He has 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's been sacked 20 times in 10 games. So that, to me, is a little bit unusual. His ability to get out of the pocket and do some things has been phenomenal throughout his career. The underhand pass, the pass behind your back, all the things that he's able to do. But I think he's sitting in the pocket a little bit more than usual, and he's being sacked a little bit more often. I'm just wondering, and I asked you that question specifically, does he feel like he's got to do something extraordinary, or does he just have to be the leader of the team? Just don't give the ball away, and we've got the guys around you that can take care of it. It's a very interesting phenomenon. We're going to see how that turns out. All right, the next game that we have, Chicago ends up going to – Pittsburgh goes to Chicago. This is going to be a very interesting game for a number of reasons. Joey, we're going to start with you. We're still not sure whether or not Aaron Rodgers will even play. He has a fracture, and I'm not sure if it's a hairline. They're going to be very, very quiet about this, but they're 6-2 right now, and they are looking at a monster right below them with the Baltimore Ravens. We mentioned them a little bit earlier. Chicago, on the other hand, is in first place by themselves for the first time in about 400 or 500 years. It's been amazing since 1985, and I'm teasing there. Chicago fans, don't get mad. I'm just saying, it's been a while since you've been in first place, but you're 7-3 right now. You're 3-1 at home. You get to entertain the Steelers. Joey, we'll start with you. What excites you about this game?
Well, the Steelers will be interesting because assuming Rodgers will not play with the I think it is a hairline fracture in his left wrist. I know the rumors are he's petitioning to play with the coaching staff and the medical staff, but I'm not sure I would put a 41-year-old quarterback who can't protect himself against a fall because of the wrist. So I'm not sure I would do that. And the backup played actually pretty well this past week when Aaron went out. So I would consider that the Steelers have to be able to run the ball. Okay, again, that has been their Achilles heel recently, is actually running the ball and finding an additional receiver opposite DK Metcalf. The defense is kind of settled in, I think. So I think that'll give Caleb some trouble. But Caleb is playing really well. The head coach has really changed the dynamic of how Caleb is playing, his mindset. He's able to he's not trying to make superhero plays anymore. He's doing the things that are expected of him, and he's playing fairly well. And they're running the ball pretty good in Chicago. So this will be an interesting game, in my opinion. And I'm obviously we know I'm pulling for the Steelers, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears did not win this game at home because they're playing really well, and Caleb is doing the right things to help them be successful.
Joey, real quick, the Steelers have thrown for 2,100 yards. They have rushed in 10 games for 882. That's kind of unlike a Steeler organization that I can remember. They have 33 sacks, 9 interceptions, 9 fumble recoveries. So defensively, they're doing enough to make a difference, but the numbers are a little bit low in terms of where their rushing is and the overall passing number. If you're not going to run, then you better throw. And I thought it would be both those numbers would be a little higher. Am I surprised by that?
Well, yes, you are some, but defensively, the Steelers have been very bipolar. Excuse me. A couple games, the defense was Dallas Cowboy-esque at times. And other times, they played, it looked like they simplified things and they got a lot better the last couple of weeks. But, especially the first Bengals game when Flacco went for almost 500 yards passing. I mean, you're wondering what's going on. But I think they're trying to settle the ship a little bit. But now, Aaron's hurt. So, we'll see what happens this week. I think this is a big week for the Steelers because a loss and a Ravens win, and there you go. Everything you've built up is gone.
Yeah. All right. Well, Brian, we talked about the Steelers defense. Let me give you a couple stats here in terms of the Bears. 21 sacks, which is a lower number than what I was used to, but 15 interceptions and 7 fumble recoveries. They're getting the ball back. They're doing a pretty good job in keeping their opponents at bay, or at least maybe a drive or two per game. You're going to give the ball back, and that can be a real difference maker. More than a punt, if you get an interception or a big sack on third down, or if you get a fumble recovery, obviously those are momentum changers.
Yeah, it's interesting because Ben Johnson being an offensive-minded coach, I think the Bears, though, their mantra, what they've been for a long time, is they've played good defense. Even in the down years, they've been a solid defense. They play well at home. They play well in the cold. And it's kind of an interesting staple because both of these teams seem to embody that, right? We want to play defense, establish the run. The Bears have a very young team on offense as well. You got a young quarterback. You got a young group of receivers for the most part. Guys, your tight end room as well. Kind of a makeshift offensive line. They're not bad, but they've shuffled a lot of pieces. They're much better from where they were last year and 2 years ago. And kind of the feeling out process of the first couple months has kind of come to a conclusion. And it's that this team is pretty stinking good. They're finding ways to win games. They don't overpower you, but they have the ability to do so. We've seen some offensive explosiveness from Williams, from Colson Loveland, who's a guy who was kind of an afterthought for a while. The last couple of weeks, he's getting more involved in the offense, and they're trying to kind of copy what Ben Johnson was able to do in Detroit, and it's working well. And I think, especially with Rodgers being out, I think the Bears have a phenomenal opportunity. I think they should be favored in this game. I'm not sure if they are, but just the identity of the team is coming together. And I think that's something the Steelers have kind of missed out on because originally, like Joey mentioned, the Steelers defense was their identity, but they kind of were lackluster a couple weeks, and they're trying to get the running backs involved, and they couldn't really run the football. And then they're trying to go the tight end. They've kind of been a jumbled mess, but they're 6-4. They have an opportunity on Sunday to win and stay ahead of Baltimore and beat a very good Bears team. But if Rodgers doesn't play, which I assume he doesn't, it's going to be tough for them to do so.
Real quick, they are 3-point favorites. The Bears are. They're -3 at home. Caleb Williams is just under 60%, 59.7. He's got 2,329 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's been sacked 16 times. This is for both of you or either. I still think he throws the ball away a little bit too high on more than enough occasions to go, what's wrong with this kid? He should be making those completions right now. But as you mentioned, Brian, I think he's being coached differently to where he's reducing the number of those, I'll call them mistakes, balls that get away from him. They're rushing for it. They've got 1,466 yards. I just mentioned the Steelers are under 900. So the Bears can run the football. Yeah. And they've got, how many touchdowns do they have right now? They got 12 touchdowns on the ground and 14 in the air. So they're pretty evenly balanced in that respect. Brian, I'll start with you. What am I saying about the Bears that either makes sense or is nothing to worry about?
I think that what makes more sense is Ben Johnson has done a great job because they brought in a guy, Kyle Monangai, who was kind of underrated running back. He's a late round guy, but he fits what they're trying to do really, really well. DeAndre Swift fits what they're trying to do really, really well. And, again, much like what he did in Detroit, they want to keep their running backs fresh. They want to keep the receivers fresh. They want everybody playing full speed, and they want to have enough depth and talent to where they have the ability to do that. The numbers may not jump out at you, and they're not meant to because it's a team that wants to win football games. They want to go into the playoffs. And as long as you're winning like they are now, nothing too gaudy. I don't think it's much to worry about. I would love Caleb's numbers to go up a little bit, but as long as you're winning and, you're doing so in a way where the film isn't atrocious, I'm okay with what they're doing right now.
Joey, your thoughts there? Did I say anything that you go, Harper, you have no idea what you're talking about. What the heck are you doing? You're wasting all the time.
But imagine this, Harper. If Caleb stays on the pace that he's in, he'll be the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history.
Bears history, yeah.
Imagine that. Yeah. Okay. Now, he's as long as the high balls are incompletions and not interceptions, I can live with it, because
Okay.
those are fundamental. Those are base problem. That means his feet aren't aligned with his arm, and guess what? The ball is selling on him because he's throwing with his arm and not throwing with his lower body. The really good quarterbacks, their base, they throw with their lower body. Even Aaron Rodgers, and I bring up Aaron Rodgers, and I'll bring up guys like Michael Vick, who they had big arms, but they were wrist throwers. You know, they didn't have to wind the shoulder all the way back and let it go unless it's going really deep. When it's going 20 yards and under, it's a risk. It's a risk. Those guys just let it out. And Caleb has a little bit of that in him as well, although you depend on that so much when your feet are out of whack. And when your feet are out of whack, the ball will sell on you.
You bring up an interesting point. Tom House, who caught Hank Aaron's 715th home run in the bullpen in Atlanta, he was a relief pitcher, and Bill Buckner wanted it. He wanted the ball. Ended up becoming the quarterback whisperer. And Tom Brady has spent several summers working with Tom House. And House's philosophy is real simple. I don't see a player, I see a skeleton. Think about that. I just look at the way that your angles are for very specific movements when you throw. And Brady went from having his arm a little bit like this to where his arm was this, and his completion percentage went up 3 or 4% just by doing a simple change like that. Is that something? I'm not saying Caleb needs to do that, but I think every quarterback should at least look and examine what they're doing. And if there is a perfect way for them to throw and they're not in that perfect position, shouldn't they know about that?
Great quarterbacks throw from the bottom up. It's not with the eyes, it's with the lower body. I mean, Andrew Luck didn't have the biggest arm. The guy in San Francisco now, both of those guys don't have the biggest arm, but when their feet, when Mac Jones and Purdy, when their feet matches their eyes, then things happen for them, and they can create completions and they can create velocity. Is when their feet are out of whack is when you see the true lack of arm strength, and sometimes you'll see the bounce passes to the receivers.
Well, you see Dak Prescott before every game just doing all kinds of plyometrics and hips and things and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully that's helped him to learn to throw with more explosiveness in his hips and his knees, and to be able to push through some of those balls that, his completion percentage, we want it to go up. And for obvious reasons, he's worked real hard at that. So
he's unlocking his hips, and that's what you have to do. Is you have to unlock your hip to throw the ball.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, we're going to unlock the next game, and we're going to talk about this. Tampa Bay and the LA Rams. This is going to be a Sunday evening game. This is going to be one of those prime timers. Tampa's kind of in trouble right now, 6-4. The Rams are 8-2. Tampa's 4-2 already. They played 6 games on the road. This will be their 7th out of 10. So we're 7th out of 11. They're going to have quite a few home games here in the second half of the season. But Joey, I'll start with you. Tampa has had some injury issues. Who do I hand off to if I'm Baker? Who do I throw to if I'm Baker? Where's Otten? If I don't throw to him 16 times a game, it seems like they struggle offensively. Do they have the ability? Well, they have the ability, but tell me what they need to do in order to be able to just relax and be able to give your quarterback some time to find the guys that are going to help you win a football game.
Well, I'll say this. They were able to get over 100 yards rushing with their third running back this week. The Bucs were. And they played in they had chances to really win the game versus Buffalo this week. Buffalo at the end of the game start to pull away, but they were in this game the whole time. But that being said, the Rams are a different animal. The Rams defense is much better than the Bills defense, and the Rams can rush the passer. They can stop the run. I mean, you look at how they've played this year and how they played Seattle just last week. So the Rams are going to come after Baker, okay? And if you can't run the ball against the Rams, which I would be surprised if they were able to run the ball versus the Rams, then they're going to make you one-dimensional. And the Rams have really good pass rushers who can affect the passer, the Florida State kid, and they have some players that can really, really change the dynamic of what Tampa Bay wants to do. If they can't be a multifaceted offense, then they're going to be in some real trouble.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a real numbers guy, but the numbers don't lie, right? They make a lot of sense. The Rams are 6th in the league in passing, 246 yards a game. 114 rushing yards per game. That's 18th, so a little bit below average. Points for, they get 27.2. They are 6th in the league, and their defense, Brian, 17.2. That's 2nd in their scoring. On the other side, let's look at Tampa Bay real quick. They're 15th in passing, 22nd in rushing. They're tied for 10th in points, and they're tied for 21st in points given up in 25 points a game. How on earth are they in first place in the NFC South at 6-4?
Well, you got the Saints and the Falcons, and then you have the Carolina Panthers, who can't really.
That's why, of course.
Yeah,
this is no one that wants to take it from them. Right?
Listen, if you've watched NFC South football for the last handful of years, a lot of times you're going to have one team in the division end up winning on Sunday, and it's going to be because two teams are playing each other. That happens more often than not. But listen, at the end of the day, someone has to win the division. The Bucs are, for the first time in a while, kind of have some competition, some actual competition. But the defense has been it's not bad. They've had some issues at linebacker. They really have. They haven't gotten a lot of production at the linebacker position. The whole team, as far as the offense, is banged up. The receiver room, Godwin, not sure. He might play this week, but we're not 100% sure. He had a setback from the injury last year. Igbuka had the hamstring issue. I'm not sure if that's still bothering him, but his numbers haven't been as good since he came back. Evans is hopeful to return by maybe week 15. Buck Irving, we still don't know. But, like Joey mentioned, Sean Tucker, their third-string running back, was phenomenal. A great find for them. He's got a ton of explosiveness. He's been great in the passing game. And for whatever reason, they seem to find a guy each and every week to step up on offense and help Baker and kind of complement him. And some weeks it is Baker, but last week they just ran into a buzzsaw. Josh Allen played kind of a vintage game, and for whatever reason, they just couldn't stop him. You can't really give up 44 points on the road and expect to beat anybody. But you mentioned the Rams, their stats, everything looks crisp. They're top 5, top 6 in almost every major category. There's a reason for that. They're well coached. They have a ton of talent. They have vets. They have young guys. Everybody buys in. Everybody's productive, and they work really well as a unit. Kind of what Tampa's trying to do. But going into this game, I think this is really going to be a find out who you are game if you're the Bucs, because for the first time in a while, this is kind of a must-win game.
Yeah. Joey, real quick, you mentioned Jonathan Taylor's one of those guys. If this were the Heisman Trophy, you would invite him to New York. I think you'd save a seat for Matthew Stafford. Let's look real quick at his numbers. 2,500 yards, 2,557 to be exact. His completion percentage is 66, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he's only been sacked 14 times. Here's a guy that everybody was worried, his back is bad. He might need surgery. He may not even make it through a preseason game. And he comes out to his first practice and boom, lights out. Shame on us for thinking that Matthew Stafford was going to be anything less than stellar.
Well, I will say this. I did pick LA at the beginning of the year to win this division. So I'm glad he's playing well. And again,
you might be smoking a cigar and just puffing on it a little bit more confidently because of that, aren't you?
Maybe a little, but but I will say this.
What?
Until the last week versus Seattle, and again, Seattle's defense is excellent. I mean, no one should sleep on Seattle's defense, where Stafford threw for only 130 yards. In my opinion, he was leading the MVP competition. But now, I really have to switch back to Jonathan Taylor because I don't think he's going to have a major letdown going forward. If anything, he'll sit out because they would have won the division and what have you, and saving them for the playoffs. But I think right now it's a 2-horse race.
Okay. Yeah. There's some other folks that might disagree, but you know what? Show me who your guy is and we'll talk about it. Yes. 27 sacks so far, 10 interceptions, 8 fumble recoveries. The Ram defense has played really well. And as we mentioned, they don't give up a whole lot of points. They're a good football team. They're 8-2 right now. They're taking on a 6-4 Tampa team. Last game we're going to look at, how about this? Monday night, Carolina is on Monday Night Football. I don't know who scheduled this earlier in the year, who had the audacity to say, I think Carolina's going to be able to do this, especially on the road. But guess what? Oh, and by the way, Tampa's not going to get home till like 6 a.m. after that Sunday night game. And Carolina going to San Francisco, pretty much the same thing with the time change. They go to San Francisco to play at Levi Stadium. 6-5 Carolina. It's a surprise to everybody. I know nobody was expecting them to be there. Even Joey was saying, nope, I don't think they're going to be in first place, or he would be smoking a cigar to tell us. And then San Francisco still in the mix at 7-4. Joey, we'll start with you. Who takes it in Levi Stadium, and what are the keys for this game for you?
Well, I'm going to say San Francisco is going to win at home. However, if Carolina has more motivation right now than almost any team in football, because if they can find a way to win this game, they will, and Tampa Bay loses, then Carolina's going to find themselves leading the division.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. Carolina will find themselves leading the division. I don't think they've said that since Cam Newton played there. So it's been a long time since they've been in this position. So they really have something to play for. They can run the ball, and they play really good defense. And as long as Bryce, who had his best game of his career last weekend, if he can carry some of that momentum onto San Francisco, then I do feel like it'll be a pretty good game, because defensively, Carolina is a really good football team. Yeah,
they are the 13th in the league in giving up points. They give up 22.6. They rush. They give up, they get 127 yards per game. They're 9th in the league in that, but they don't score a whole heck of a lot, Brian, unless they're playing the Falcons. And they have no problem scoring 30 points a game, but they're averaging 18.8, which is 28th. I'm kind of surprised with that number for them. But Carolina, guess what? They're where they are because they're where they are, and what they're doing has been it's been exemplary. I won't say it's remarkable in any way, shape, or form, but I think it's a surprise of the league right now. For Baltimore to catch up to get 5-5, I think that's a tremendous surprise. Chicago, who we've already talked about, and then Carolina is another one of those organizations that right now you're going, wow, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game, because I do agree, Joey, they need to kind of ride that momentum, right? Because Bryce Young has been very inconsistent. I could go back to the week before against New Orleans, and he looked like a not even an NFL quarterback. The numbers weren't good. They couldn't do much offensively. Scoring 7 points at home against a one-win team is almost inexcusable. But the staple of this team, and what's kind of kept them in the hunt for as long as it's been, their run game. Rico Dowdle's been fantastic. The idea was have him and Chuba Hubbard kind of be a two-headed monster, but Dowdle's kind of taken the lead, and his numbers are fantastic, and he's deservedly the main guy now. But I need him to consistently go to Tet McMillan. I need to get the other guys involved. Coker came back. He's phenomenal in the slot for them. Xavier Legette seems to kind of have figured it out. His numbers have gone up, but I need to see some consistency. And I think realistically, if they want to beat a Niners team who's very, very good, they're finally healthy. Pearsall's back. Kittle's back. Purdy's back. McCaffrey, knock on wood, is still very, very healthy. The defense is lackluster as far as the star power, but they're funneling guys in and out. They're going to have to be able to run the ball. They're going to have to eat up some clock, because this is a very good San Francisco team. And, they beat an Atlanta team in overtime. They went into Mercedes-Benz and did it last week, and it's a huge win for them. But, this San Francisco team beat Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and they did it convincingly. And I think there's a little bit of a skill gap there between those two teams, and Carolina's going to – this is a game we're really going to find out who they are. Can they play back-to-back good weeks, and can they do it against a really good team in San Francisco?
They're second in the league in passing. San Francisco is. They're 27th in their rushing. I thought that number's a little bit low. They're 15th, both in points for and points against, so they're right there in the middle. But they're 7-4, and they're only a game out of the race there in the NFC West. There's a look at the games that we have. Any final thoughts here, Joey, before we part?
No, I mean, week 11, I thought the defenses, the teams that had really good defenses, they're starting to rise to the top, and I think that's going to be the way it is the rest of the year. And again, the one thing I've preached, if you have a great offensive line and defensive line, you have a great opportunity to win a game. And we have the games we previewed, the teams that will run the ball the best will probably win the games.
Yeah. And Brian, Detroit has a big game. Baltimore, of course, every game is important for them right now. You got Philadelphia going to Dallas. That used to be much watch TV in the past. And then Buffalo and Houston on Thursday. But we wanted to feature the others, and I'm glad we did. Final thoughts here from you, Brian.
Yeah, some good games across the board. I think these are the big four. But, yeah, I'm going to be interested to see the Texans are going to be out with C.J. Stroud again. But Bills are a juggernaut on offense because they got number 17 back there slinging the football. But the Texans' defense has been spectacular. And if they can pull this win out, maybe sneak back into the playoff picture in the AFC, it'll be I think it's gonna be a good one Thursday night. Hopefully, we don't get many of those, so maybe we'll get finally a gem on Thursday Night Football.
Well, there you have it, everybody. For Brian LeBel, our college and NFL analyst, and for Joey Clinkscales, our NFL general manager, personnel director, chief of scouting, scout, former player. He's done it all. We appreciate you being a part of the show. This has been the NFL weekly preview for week number 12 here coming up this coming Thursday, Sunday, and Monday night. We appreciate you being a part of the show. Thank you for tuning in to 100 Yards of Football. We hope everybody